Hey everybody! Thank you so much for all coming out to Talk for Change. We're really excited about our first ever Textbooks for Change on-campus event that's not a book drive. So thank you all for coming out and starting this with us. We're really excited to hear from 5 inspiring social entrepreneurs. And we're going to kick things off with Chris Jansen, who's the founder and CEO of Textbooks for Change. And he's going to give us a little bit of a background on what Textbooks for Change is and why we're all here today, because we wouldn't all be here today without him. So I'm going to pass it off to him to do a little intro, and then we'll get started with the panel. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the intro and the kind words. And thanks so much for organizing this event. This is absolutely awesome. So great to be back to the school where it all began. Definitely a lot of memories here. And it's awesome that there's so much interest now in social entrepreneurship, because we're really going to change the world through social entrepreneurship. And now that we're talking about it and having events like this, it's just super exciting, because that didn't exist when I was back in school, even though it was not too long ago. So today I'm just going to do a quick overview of my kind of like unique pathway from school to where I am now, where Textbooks for Change is. There'll be a few lessons along the way, but I'm just kind of glossing over the surface of it all. I'm sure there's thousands of stories within that all. I'm sure more of it will come out through the questions and answers period. If you want to ask me after, anything like that. So let's dive into find out a little bit about my journey in Textbooks for Change. You can see our beautiful first logo here with Mickey Mouse hands holding books. I wasn't great at branding. So I was always very involved at Western in different charity initiatives throughout my days. I was big into the sophomore community, which I'm sure all of you know. I was a social science off for 2 years, a charity soft for my final year, and a little bit how the beginning stage of Textbooks for Change started is with that softening program. We were always looking for ways to fundraise for cystic fibrosis through Shinerima or cancer research through Carrie Fox. So we were doing car washes, bottle drives, all of those different things. But I saw some of my peers had old textbooks sitting around collecting dust that they were no longer using. And some of the students I was mentoring in first year were in need of some of those books. So I put the two together, we collected some of those books. Students, and we raised about $500 to $1,000 for Shinerama that year. At that point, I thought Textbooks for Change was just going to be a very small project, so kind of tucked it behind the scenes at that point. But then students just kept reaching out to me with more books and more books. Tom Hartford, who is our co-founder, was my roommate at the time, was very confused with all these books in the house, and that's kind of how he got involved with it all. But yeah, like I said, I started to put this project on the back burner because I went to, in my 3rd year of university, I went to the Rich Drive School of Business, and that first year is pretty busy, so I wasn't able to work on this project at that time. But while I was in school, I really didn't fit in. I was in a section, I was divvied up in different sections. And my section only cared about being an IBA or a consultant or being an accountant, and that just wasn't me. And I was just so frustrated by that whole experience because I really didn't fit in. At that point, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I thought I wanted to be give back in some way. I thought I wanted to be the CEO of a big nonprofit. So I landed in an internship after my first year at IT. With United Way. Amazing experience, learned a lot, but saw that it was very bureaucratic. 10 people had to make an approval before passing anything. The growth we did for the next year was really relying on how much money we can get in from grants and from donations, and that it didn't sit well with me. I wasn't quite excited being restricted by the donations we could get in. So I started to second guess what I wanted to do. So I went back to my 4th year university, still having no idea what I wanted to do with my life, so don't feel scared if you have no idea yet. But I started to focus in on sustainability and entrepreneurship in my 4th year. And there are a few pivot points in my life that got me to where I was, but in my 4th year, I was part of a program. It was a trip to Honduras. It was a school class trip where we went to a rural town in Honduras and analyzed the coffee supply chain there. So what we did, we analyzed the supply chain, saw that there was about 10 different middlemen from the producer of the coffee to the end buyer. And we saw that if we set up a microfinance institution and gave these farmers a little bit of capital, they were able to skip 3 or 4 of these middlemen. It ultimately increased the income for their family. They could have better health care, access to education. And by that 2-week trip, using business as a force for good, we can ultimately change so many people's lives. So that really excited me and started to change my mindset. Went back to school, started to research this a little bit more, using business as a force for good. And I found that there was a whole movement around it, the whole B Corp movement. Using business as a force for good. If you don't know what a B Corp is a for-profit social enterprise that works in the interest of all of the stakeholders involved, rather than just the shareholders or the owners of the company, which is what a typical organization would. And by being a for-profit social enterprise, you can access capital in a lot of different ways. You can take investing on from social investors, down the road from VC funds, and ultimately you can scale that model at a much faster pace, and ultimately in the end you can create more impact. And if you're a B Corp, impact is really at your core. So I started getting excited about this a little bit more, seeing that maybe I can start to mix what I'm learning in school and business with what I wanted to do with creating impact. So at that point, still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. There wasn't really many options out of Ivy in the social entrepreneurship stream. So that time I decided to not go down the typical recruiting pathway. All my friends locked down jobs at the beginning of the year, at big companies that I had no idea what I wanted to do. My parents were not too happy with me at the time. So what I did was maxed out my line of credit and traveled off to East Africa. So here, there's a program at school that was lecturing business students in East Africa, and I said, this sounds like an absolute awesome opportunity for me. Throughout my whole life, you hear about stories about the continent of Africa, and you hear, famine, corruption, and all this horrible shit that's going on. But when you're there, you see so much opportunity, you see so much potential, and just like, students have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations as they do back home. But I really saw there was a lack of material to depend on and really learn well with. There wasn't really hardware at the university to access the internet. Internet access was atrocious. The libraries there were filled with old and tattered books. This is some of the pictures we actually took on the ground. I saw students foregoing meals to make photocopies of books. And we were running, this small project back home to raise money for a few different causes. And this was really the missing piece, that whole textbook change model. So another big pivot point in my life was obviously when I did this. And then we, at this point, really started to think on how Textbooks for Change would not only be a project, but how we could become sustainable and continue to grow, because it is all about sustainability. But I saw, at that time, maxed out the line of credit, traveled, really didn't have any job prospects or anything. I needed to live for a little bit. And as I dived deeper and looking into this project, I saw that I needed a 5 to 6 month window to live. So I got back in September of 2013. I'm like, how could I get, $5,000 to $10,000 so I could able to live and focus on what I really wanted to do, which is Textbooks for Change. So lucky for me, Halloween was fast approaching. This is myself dressed in a monkey suit. This is the weirdest chapter of my life. So came back right in the UCC. Propel was named BizInc at the time. They had a business front where you could just start as a business, sell to students. I remember it was extremely not convenient for me to get a costume when I was a student at Western University. So what if there was a convenient way we could sell costumes and accessories back to students at Western? So anyway, did that project. Here I was dressing in a monkey suit, talking university steps, doing some ridiculous things, but ultimately this small project that I put everything into got me enough money to live for 6 months to actually focus on what I wanted to do, what I was passionate about. And that was running Textbooks for Change. So our first step was obviously doing a bit of a rebrand here, to get out those Mickey Mouse fans. And at this time, after I did that Halloween store, I convinced Tom to quit his good job in Toronto in the finance industry to come live on couches in London for me for a little bit to start this off again. So Textbooks for Change, for if you guys don't know about how our model works, I'll quickly explain it now. First, I'm gonna grab some water. Perfect, so this is how our model works. Obviously, with any initiative you do, there's gonna be a lot of pivots along the way, but this is what we do now. So we first collect textbooks from a few different avenues. We'll have drop-ins on post-secondary campuses like you see at Western, so we're at schools, colleges and universities across Ontario. We collect through student club collection drives, like Shinerama at Western we used to work with. Get Real is an amazing partner for us. We also partner with big community partners like Goodwill Industries. So we'll collect these books, aggregate them in our fulfillment center in Hamilton, Ontario. We'll sort through these books. 50% of the books will be sent to university libraries in East Africa. There is so much behind the scenes work in this 50%. This is what really separates us from some of the other social enterprises out there. 30% is efficiently recycled. If it's old and tattered, we really can't find a use for. And 20% of the books we collect are actually resold back online to students at affordable prices here in North America. And that's really going to give us the revenue to continue growing, optimizing our impact, and scaling to the next level. So here are some strong numbers about our impact. This was about 3 months ago, so these numbers are definitely higher at this point. And like I said, the books donated, there is a lot that goes behind the scenes. We actually hired a head of East Africa operations. We had someone on the ground in East Africa meeting with our partners, asking what books they need and would help them. So now we make custom shipments for these universities. We take baseline data of their libraries beforehand. And then after we send our books, we can see has library foot traffic increased? Has access to short-term and long-term loans increased? And then we benchmark that versus the baseline data that we originally had. So at the beginning, in the early days, we really didn't have the resources to do that. It was all all the qualitative stuff we hear from our partners. Like, yeah, we're creating impact, keep sending us our books. But when we were able to, we dove a little bit deeper and actually got those quantitative metrics to really prove our impact. And with any impact organization, it's very important. If you're ever going to solve a problem, you really have to live within that problem. And we really, pride ourselves on the ground game. We go back as much as we can to East Africa, visiting the partners that we work with. This is our trip back in 2015, and we are going to be heading back again this summer. So very, very excited to do that. Not only visiting our partners we currently have, but also seeing how we can expand on the digital education front as well. Beautiful American eagle there. So this is kind of what's next for us. Quickly explain. So we're growing into the US now. Just landed in Michigan, which is awesome. And again, we're going to be exploring digital education and seeing how we can evolve from what we're doing now. Again, in entrepreneurship, you always have to be innovating and thinking ahead. 5-10 years, how is the whole market going to transition? So I know today I quickly talked about all the good things that we're doing in entrepreneurship. Or in social impact and what we're creating, and it's a great story. But behind the scenes, it's an absolute freaking roller coaster. There's brilliant highs and the lowest of lows. You're gonna get knocked down when you don't expect it. But if you're passionate enough about it, you're gonna get up and you're gonna keep trying. Which brings me to my final point. Whatever you do in your life, always build something that matters. Not only something that matters to the world to make it a better place, but matters to you. Something that gets you excited and passionate about getting up in the morning, and ultimately something that makes you happy. So there is my quick story. Like I said, there's a million stories within that one. And feel free to dive in and get some of them out during the Q&As. And again, if you guys have any ideas or want to get into social entrepreneurship, we always, myself or our team, we always have 5 to 10 minutes to give. To be that sounding point. So Thanks so much for having me. Can't wait to hear from you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Moss. I'm here and I'm going to be moderating the session tonight. So I want to introduce myself. I'm a leadership consultant here in London, Ontario, based here in London. I work locally, I work provincially, and I work nationally. And very honored to have Textbooks for Change as one of my founding clients at the very beginning of my journey. So walking the journey with them has been a little bit of a roller coaster ride and a lot of fun. So my journey here is having come through, as a Gen Xer, never having understood what social anything is, because we didn't talk like that when I was in school. So now seeing that people are so much more looking at social change and really wanting to make a difference is just so exciting to me. I'm also a prof at Russia. I teach in the first year nonprofit management course and having a lot of fun with that. So I enjoy students. I love working with people who are interested in social entrepreneurship. And so today this is just really fun for me. Hey, so panelists, why don't you come and have a chair? So how this is going to work is I have a bunch of questions if you guys are quiet. But what we're hoping for is that you guys have lots of questions. So start thinking about what you might want to ask these brilliant people. And each one of them are going to give us a 5-minute introduction, maximum 5. And who are you and what do you do, so everyone can prepare their questions in their mind. So who would like to start? We just heard from Chris, so let's go him last.
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone, my name is Catherine. I'm currently a second-year student here at Western studying psychology. My co-founder Sarah, who's also here. We co-founded Future Fund when we were in grade 12. So what Future Fund does is that we equip high school students with financial literacy skills. And why we decided to do that in grade 12 was because I was looking forward to university and I was really excited for the independence about to come. But I felt frankly very screwed for budgeting, rent, education. Like I didn't know how to do any of that, and it really scared me. And I was talking to Sarah and my other friends, and I felt like none of them knew it either. And we really found this gaping hole in the high school system, which is that financial literacy is such a crucial and practical skill that's really not taught in our math, sciences, and English courses. And that's how we thought to bring it into our own hands and do something about it ourselves. And so since grade 12, so since 3 years ago, we've been creating conferences all over the GTA. We started right in our own high school in Mississauga at Glen Forest Secondary School. And our second year, we scaled to downtown Toronto. So we had 150 students coming from 40 high schools and 8 school boards come in. We had Jane Rooney, the Financial Literacy Leader of Canada, as our keynote, which was really exciting. And this year, what we've been up to is expanding outside of conferences and more into workshops. So bringing financial literacy more into the everyday high school curriculum. And so far this year, we've expanded to Waterloo, London, and Ottawa. And we've probably delivered over 20 workshops to over 300 students. And we're really excited about that. So we're really happy to see how it goes, and we're excited to see if you guys have any advice and insights for us as well. So that's amazing.
Wonderful.
Hi everyone, my name is Sonia Fernandez, and I'm one of 3 co-founders of Ezzy. I'm actually from Markham, Ontario, so from the Greater Toronto area, and I came to Western to study in 2007. So that's a long time ago. Make myself a little bit here. And at that time, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I was very confused, similar to Chris on my journey. So I studied philosophy at Huron University College. In my 3rd year, I started a student club called Volunteer Yeah, which was a leadership training program to get young people involved in their communities. And the club had grown tremendously over the couple of years, and I wanted to do it full time. So I brought my student club idea to BizInc at the time, which is now Propel. And that's where I met my 2 best friends and now business partners, Samantha and Bianca. At that time, there was not a lot of female entrepreneurs in the startup space. So we became friends right away. And we knew we wanted to start something together, but we didn't know what it was. Fast forward 2 years, so we graduated in 2012 when we met. And in 2014, we came up with the business idea for Ezzy. So Ezzy is a trend-setting lifestyle brand of accessories and apparel, All of our items are handcrafted, and each one represents an animal that's in danger. And 10% of every sale is donated to the World Wildlife Fund to help conserve species at risk. So at the time, coming up with the business idea, we wanted to blend our many passions for fashion, for animal welfare and climate change research, as well as with social enterprise. There was this new movement of social enterprise that was happening that was very exciting. So we wanted to be a part of it, and it's been quite the journey. And I'm very excited to tell you guys more about it as we answer more questions throughout the panel.
My name is Chris. Proud Western alumni, of course, like everybody. So I'm the one of the founders and the executive director of a nonprofit organization called Get Real. So I guess my story, I'm from Toronto. I came to Western in 2008, so same era or whatever. And I got involved in the soft program. That's how I know Chris and some other good people in the room. Yep. And the soft program and the O-Week program, as everyone knows, it's a program about welcoming people to the school, making sure that Western is a home away from home for everybody. There's people, from all over London, all over Ontario, all over Canada, all over the world come to Western. And it was a real, it was just such a good experience to get to welcome people and make people feel, comfortable at school. Get really started organically. So we basically were having a lot of conversations with our first year students about really building kind of that inclusive atmosphere, inclusive attitudes, and really inclusive language. So a lot of really positive conversations, but always kind of from a friends first perspective. And we were close in age. And often what we would do, one thing with the O-Week program and everyone that I knew was it was a really non-judgmental program in that sense. Hearing something, that one of our frosh would say that might not have made someone feel included, language, that's so gay, etc. It was never a judgmental thing. Often what we did was really just open up a little bit about ourselves, share a little bit about our personal journey, where we come from. Myself, at that time, I had 2 roommates, one of whom was struggling with coming out, one of whom had just come out. And it had definitely been a journey for myself, especially going to an all-guys private school in Toronto for a couple of years and learning a lot and really growing a lot as a person. My co-founder, Sophie, one of my co-founders, Sophie, had come out after going to an all-girls private school. She'd come out kind of a camp. We were talking to other founders, found the same thing, that kind of friends first approach really was working. Tons of students were telling us that they felt more comfortable, were disclosing things to us. Tons of students were actively telling us that they had never thought about these issues, but they were changing their language. And it was a really positive experience, and it was really working. So we decided to form a little student group called Get Real. Real stands for Reaching Equality at Last. I had another friend who was in the Biz Inc. Called Vintage Apparel, and they had these neon hats that were, cool to go to parties and stuff. Wow, I'm so old. But you'd go to a party and blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. No, anyway, but, so we had these neon pink hats. We wanted to start conversations around campus. That right away kind of put us into a bit of a social enterprise framework because we were raising money for a cause, basically to, go out there. And we really wanted to bring our message of Get Real and that kind of friends first approach from O-Week in the middle schools and high schools, get out there in the community. That's really where that insight came from. And then it just really kind of took off. It was just a very honest thing for 2 years with just pure volunteers. It became full-time for me fall of 2013 through a corporate partner. And we're a growing staff in Toronto. Super cool, just an amazing experience. That roller coaster slide could not be any more accurate. But yeah, it's amazing to see a room full of people here. It's amazing to see so much passion for giving back and so much passion for wanting to really change the world and impact the world. So very, very proud to be here. Textbooks is one of our first big partners, and really proud to be here with them as well. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Hi everyone, my name is Sean Slade. I am the Vice President and co-owner of Lucha Organic Kombucha. along with my wife Shannon, who decided to not speak up here today. But yeah, so Kombucha, organic kombucha, we handcraft kombucha tea, which is a fermented tea beverage. Show of hands, who here knows what kombucha is? I love talking to younger crowds. Good, so I don't have to say that. But yeah, so what we did, we started kombucha. I've been I guess to give you my full story into social entrepreneurship. I graduated, you guys all thought you were old. I graduated business from Windsor in 2006, and then again in 2008, political science there. I came here to London, where actually I met Shannon working at the downtown Goodwood Fitness, where I was the personal trainer manager there. So this, our experience in health promotion and fitness kind of, we hit it off. We got married last summer, so our relationship very much has been about health promotion. During that time, Shannon found out that she had celiac disease and can't eat gluten. Also during that time, I was becoming a holistic nutritionist and had helped a lot of my clients with the digestive health, to help them lose weight and feel better, happy, and all that stuff. So in doing this, we kind of realized that there is a need for health promotion on the business level. So businesses that are truly standing by their product and making something that is truly helpful. So which has become a huge industry, surpassed coconut water in 2015. And we're finding that as all things go industry-wise, people are looking to cut corners in the way they brew this ancient healing tonic. And we just wanted to make it with that traditional healing, healing roots at the forefront. So when we started Booch, we decided to make 3 pillars our North Star. So health promotion, local organic food security, and then environmental sustainability or environmental regeneration. So everything that we do at Booch has those 3 values at the forefront when we're making our decisions. And yeah, that's us in a nutshell. Right now, what's exciting for us is we're moving into a brand new 9,000 square foot facility. We officially had our first sale May 2nd, 2015. So it's almost 2 years in business, and we're carrying now over 150 retailers across Ontario and expanding Ottawa. So that's us in a nutshell. Our new space is over on Clark Road. So
You're right on my house.
there we go. Well, no, we're staying. Yes, we've got a storefront also in the Western Fair District, which we'll be there.
Another intro? Say something you didn't think before?
Say something you didn't before.
Say something else. Tell a joke.
I don't have many jokes putting on the spot. I don't know, you heard my story. Well, a lot of it will come up in the question.
All right, so you've heard the 5 wonderful panelists who are changing the world. Does anyone have any good questions? Or bad questions? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Yay! Thank you.
So all of you guys are doing amazing things, wonderful. But I'm curious as to how you guys balance the fact that when you pay yourselves and will hire employees, there's a pressure between putting that money towards a good cause and paying quality people enough money they actually want to work for you. So how do you balance that, especially in the community with Tag Business School? Some people go to iBanking because they pay you $100,000, and the smart people go there. Others are not. So not all of them, but some of them are not like that. So how do you balance that? I should pay for talent and bring more to the nonprofit industry, or this should go to the cause?
I'll jump right in and say I'd say sustainability, right? So if your overall goal is being a socially conscious business, but you don't have the right staff to get there, then I mean right now we're not even 2 years into the game. So us to make sure we find the best, pay them the best that we possibly can. They also have to share our passion, which is going to, at least in my experience, maybe you can even ask the one that's here, but if that makes the difference up for what you're not getting in paper, you're part of this movement, right? So not to say dangle the carrot, but everyone on our team knows what the livable wage is, knows what the profit sharing, they know about everything that's on the way, and of course we're still doing what we can as we can, right? So it is a balance, you're right, but I guess you have to find those people that have the same passions as you.
Yeah, definitely second that. If someone has that choice between a $100,000 job or working for a social enterprise or something that makes a difference, they probably already made up their mind. You don't want that person who is kind of debating that decision. You want someone who is all in for that mission and doesn't necessarily care as much about the compensation, as long as they're able to live off that and get by. A good way to incentivize it, if you are a B Corp, that is a for-profit social enterprise, so you're able to give out stock options as well. as employees stay. So that is that extra incentive as well on top of the standard wage.
One thing for us, I mean, I feel like with Get Real, it just started so organically. I mean, that was 2 years of just pure volunteers. So I mean, we kind of look back at those years. If someone kind of approached us and was like, you know, I'm looking for like $100,000 gig, you know, what do you got? I mean, for me, you know, grinding away, you know, for 2 years, I'm paid as a volunteer for something that I care about so much. And in 2017, I care about that much more. You know, those are, yeah, exactly. Like, those are the passionate people that like I want to be building something with. That being said, I also, you know, when it started to be big enough that it needed staff, I don't think there's any kind of ethical, I don't know if part of the question was that, like how do you sort of balance that in terms of like, you know, money that could be going to the cause. I mean, I guess it depends how lean you want to be. For us, I mean, we're a small staff, we're a staff of 3. We don't even have an office, we're just in like shared office space in Toronto. So we put like, you know, insane hours and, you know, our modest salary is what we take out of Get Real, but it got to a point where it just needed staff to grow. And that's what I say to a lot of people who are curious, and a lot of people don't even realize that nonprofits and charities do need staff. Some of them, some don't. But to hit a certain stage of growth, things need to kind of stay on an even keel. But I mean, we'd rather work really, really hard to have people who have a livable wage, who aren't stressed about if they can buy groceries that week. Great West Life Insurance actually like laughed when they found out how many people we had, because we like have dental and medical benefits for employees, and they were like, "You're a staff of 3," because apparently a lot of small businesses and stuff just kind of forego that. It's like, you know what, whatever, like you figure that out yourself. But we want Get Real to be a great place to work and a place that people feel comfortable as well. We cannot offer $100,000, but I mean, we work with, you know, we're approaching having worked with doing something that we're so passionate about. And there's so much room for creativity. We're starting an after-school program. You know, we get to do videos, we get to work with so many interesting people. And the more people I bump into from Western who are at those big kind of corporate jobs, and you know, I see them out at the bar or whatever, and they always come up and they always go, "Oh my God, I'm so jealous that is your life, that you get to wake up every day and do that. How can I get involved? How can I help?" And that was a funny realization after school, because that's the thing I hear the most from my friends who are in those jobs. But it's a great question, because it is like such a dichotomy for sure.
Cool. You should go to the
I would go to the next question.
Okay.
We haven't hired any staff, so.
Perfect. Anyone else have a question?
I have a question that's kind of related to that, I guess. I know primarily what I'm involved in on campus is recruiting, but through that, and I think this question applies to all, or the ones hiring people, is that we sometimes struggle with, and I think maybe all of you struggle with this, explaining to people that that money is needed for growth. I think some people that could potentially be involved as like consumers in these social entrepreneurship enterprises struggle with the fact that like 20-30% need to go not directly to charity but to growing the operation. I think we sometimes struggle with getting people on board with that. And I wonder how you guys have struggled with that and how you were working that actually got people on board as opposed to just turning away this 100% putting our way to the organization.
I could briefly touch on it. I know you know a lot from with us. But being the B Corp movement has definitely helped. You know, there's more and more conversation around that, and people are becoming more familiar to what B Corps are. But it's just sitting down with someone and explaining for 2 minutes that, you know, you need that capital to reinvest, because ultimately when you scale more, you're going to create more impact, rather than creating that impact now. So, you know, that's the high level explanation. It's slow movement, and we're still, you know, many years from getting there, but it's happening now. And events like this is really starting to change that conversation.
I think the other thing is, like, we run into this too sometimes. I think a big thing is choice. You know, like, you could choose to be involved with Get Real. There's also organizations that are very small, very niche. I mean, when we started this, this was like 4 people who started it, and we thought it could be a cool Western project. Never dreamed that there'd be people, you know, in other countries working on Get Real and stuff. But I mean, it's a choice to, you know, do that or keep it small. But I had a conversation with someone on our Windsor chapters. We have chapters of different universities, and they were asking me, what's the deal with that? It seems like part of it is like fundraising and raising money and stuff, but it's just having that conversation and just being transparent about that. Honestly, what I said was, if we had gone the route of just remaining small, no staff, etc., that's fine and that's worthwhile, but we probably wouldn't be having this conversation because to expand, to Windsor, etc., that requires a level of management that just takes staff, takes funds.
I think to answer your question and to echo you in saying that it's choice, I personally haven't experienced that struggle. For example, and maybe it's just because we are an e-commerce brand, I feel like our customers are just happy that we care and have a social impact model than not. And to kind of explain a scenario would be, we sell our products at music festivals in the summer, and we sell flower crowns that are handmade, and so did the next tent, and so did the next tent after that, but those tents didn't donate 10% to the World Wildlife Fund, and even though our products were $5, $10 more, customers were willing to pay for that because they knew that not only were they purchasing this beautiful thing for themselves, but they were also making an impact. And I think the younger generation, especially Generation Y, I'm not sure which one it is, I think they're more socially conscious in that way and more willing to purchase products that have that social impact model. So from my experience, I haven't seen that struggle or had to justify it. I think our consumers are just happier that we do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of for us, we are not like a front-facing, selling type of thing. We just educate high school students. But I think the way that we think about it is, as students, we really buy things with our own time. We have limited time. We have to study for exams. We have to do homework. We want to party with our friends. We want to hang out with family, and we choose how we use that precious dollar of ours to, advance ourselves, learn, and enjoy our lives. And so I guess for us, we are really trying to incentivize people to give us their time, to come out and, put an investment for their own lives and learn about financial literacy. In terms of the question before that, how do we convince people to give their time to volunteer for a future fund and grow our organization? We have to convince them that, our organization has a great culture and you have a really great learning experience from working with us. And you have a lot of autonomy about what you're doing, and we give you a lot of freedom in advancing your own projects. So I think really convincing, students as a demographic to vote with their time, I think that's a really, good way to go about things.
And on that one quick last point, there's always going to be a few people who hate your model and hate you and hate what you're doing. You just have to ignore them and close those people out and not let them hold you back. There's always going to be that person trying to drag you down.
Talking about trolls or haters?
Both.
And it is really shifting. Like, this mindset is really shifting. I would say 5 years ago that was a really big issue, but it's really starting to shift. So, and it's exciting to see where it's headed, actually, because I have a feeling this is going to be more the norm. You'll see less nonprofits trying to do things and more social businesses and leading nonprofits doing things in a new way. So it's pretty exciting. Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
With the note of these lean corporations, I'm wondering how you guys walk the line between being as lean as you can and potentially, running a more profitable business that could eventually, you can then use that money to make more change happen. This might go really well for the kombucha question, because you guys say you do your tea in a certain manner that a lot of people are cutting corners on the industry, which obviously increases your costs. So how do you walk that line between being leaner, which then can make me more profitable and allow me to get more money, but then sticking to some non-financial standards, like what is our business about, and I guess how do you walk that line? How do you walk this?
I'll fill that out. I guess we don't actually have any set targets that we're trying to do. We know, those 3 pillars where they are. We know there's organizations in town that do very good jobs with those, so we are getting to those. I wouldn't say we're operating in a lean manner to do so. The kombucha industry is blowing up, and we're using really some of that momentum that this industry has, and we're, instead of taking it and reinvesting it, nothing lavish by any means, right? So good old minivan. But it carries kombucha just great, and I'm happy. I'm happy making changes and making use of that skill good. So I find any business that I've ever done in the past where I was focusing on being profitable, I find there's a void that's still filled. And this being a company where we know, yes, we're making money, yes, we could go out and go partying with the team on the weekend or whatever. We do that at the same time. We know that we'd rather put that money into something else. So we don't have goals, but we are constantly evaluating how well we're doing on that front.
Just clarify one thing, maybe. That's what we covered a portion question, but it's more along the lines of if you made your process leaner and compromise on some of your standards, could you be, helping reach eventually more people getting this really good product that helps them a lot because you were allowed to scale your business more because you're more profitable, but you didn't compromise on your.
I think I can speak to that as well, because in making products that we donate to the World Wildlife Fund, and it would be weird if we made products that harmed animals in the process or harmed the environment. It's very counterintuitive. So that has been a very big challenge for us. And I think it goes back to what is your business's core values, or what are your company's core values, and sticking to them. And whether it costs twice the price, you charge twice the price to the customer, and the customer is willing to pay for that. So you're not willing to cut corners if it jeopardizes your company values and what you stand for. And I think that's the most important thing, is identifying what those are first, and then the business decisions will come afterwards.
Yeah, and just going up like the twice the price, I'd rather work like twice as hard to make something that is sustainable where I don't compromise ethics. I'd rather just put in the work and have a game plan for when I don't have to. I used to do like 2 a.m. nights, I do like 9 p.m. nights, and it's eventually, and you have a game plan, but I'd rather work twice as hard to do something that can stay.
I would say most of the social entrepreneurs I've met have that sort of mentality. I don't find a lot of them are out to make a lot of money, just scrimp and save to get the money. I find most of them we want to figure out a way to scale to have more impact, but not in a way that's going to hurt or jeopardize the things that we're doing. So would you agree?
Yeah. And I don't think you have to pass them off. They're not just two separate. I mean, I really think we're doing both of them very well right now. And I don't know, and I mean, yeah, we'll see in a year if we're still able to say the same thing, but yeah, I feel like you don't have to pass it both. You can design it.
It's not high. There's this thing where you're at is like sometimes you think you have to have a sliver. Like there's a lot of things out there.
Yeah.
You will scale and grow and make money. The second, who was my number 2? Question? Okay, number 3 question. Yeah.
So I think this applies to all of you, but I think that what do you think was the biggest challenge in actually implementing scaling business?
I touched on it quick at the beginning. I guess one of the biggest challenges was bringing on the right people. In the early days, Tom and I were working ridiculous hours and couldn't do it anymore, and we needed to bring on a set of hands. But I just met a buddy and went for beers with him once. I'm like, I like you. Come on board as a partner. And it was one of the worst decisions we made. It's extremely important to hire for culture fit and get the right people on board from day one. If you're gonna have to work extra long for 2 more months just to get that right person, you got to do it. But yeah, it's very hard to find those right people, but once you do, it makes the world a difference.
For us, our thing was we had an idea that was really special to us that just blew up, and we, through all the different people who were involved, had kind of collectively the right instincts for what we were trying to do, and that. So we blew up really, really fast. But I mean, I took poli-sci here and majored in partying and or minor. But yeah, just blowing up really fast, and then having this huge organization that I had to run, and I also had to go backwards and redo. I mean, go backwards with our lawyers, go backwards with finding an accountant, go backwards with all of our different structures and processes. Oh my God, trying to do all that stuff just at the very start. That's when I coach new. I mean, you could talk to Connor about the Daylight Summit. It's oh my God, do everything at the start, if you can, find out as much info at the start as you can. They're big. And then angry to go back, but we're basically out of it now. That was just a crazy journey to kind of keep something going and moving up and moving forward, and then also be going backwards. And
I think we had the opposite problem. So when we were in grade 12, we really needed people to believe in us. We were just like this kid, and we're going around. So what happened was that we didn't have enough money for our first conference at our high school. And so Sarah and I were like, oh, this is such a cute opportunity to dress up in a blazer and like go around the local plaza. So we were so excited and put on lipstick and stuff like that. And we handed out a bunch of sponsorship letters to like the local people. Yeah, of course. Okay, you're gonna hand it to them. Great. And yeah, like we didn't hear back from anyone. Through this journey, I think we really realized that youth is definitely power. What happened was that in my grade 12 year, I had the opportunity to sit in at an Economic Club of Canada breakfast where Kathleen Wynne was speaking, and just like a bunch of people buy membership at the Economic Club of Canada to go network with fellow banking or whatever people. And I felt really out of place because I was like this grade 12 trying to fit in with the blazer. And I actually stood out that way because a lot of these people came up to me actively and said, hey, why are you here? What brings you here? Because they recognized me as someone young. And so really proving ourselves was difficult and a challenge. But really something interesting that happened after our first year was people started reaching out to us. They saw us on Facebook, they saw us on Twitter, they heard about us. And a lot of opportunities started up because they reached us. And actually what happened was that last year for our conferences, this little startup called Innovate, they actually make financial literacy games online, and they reached out to us to saying, hey, we want to partner, but we don't know how, but let's talk about it. And that was when Sarah and I were actually trying to think of a decision-making competition for our conference. And so we're like, hey, you guys have the expertise. I don't want to make this game. You guys conference. So they were able to bring their model and put it in front of all of our audience, and we were able to gain from their expertise, and we didn't have to do any of the work, and the game turned out to be amazing. So a lot of synergies came that way, and definitely proving ourselves was a journey, but we definitely came a long way from that, and youth is definitely power, and definitely leverage that when you're young.
Cool. Okay. Does anyone else have a question?
Going off of challenges, I know, with small business, a lot of logistical challenges must arise. I guess especially for the ones who do like products and even the textbooks. Like I'm just wondering how you guys overcame that, and let's say like distribution channels and whatnot, especially because obviously you don't have a lot of money, and like sending textbooks to Africa probably costs a lot. So I'm just wondering how you guys overcame that and made it so big from something so small.
Cool. Very carefully. Initially, we would, when it was a small project at Western, we would run the books every night from our basement, Tom and I were roommates, to the Canada Post and shipped from there. So we started shipping there, learned if we did it at scale, we could get a discount, and eventually worked our way up to, learning the ins and outs of Canadian and US logistics over the past year. So kind of just learning from the ground up. We didn't have a choice but to do it. The East Africa side is very tricky, especially in environments that are, politically stable at times. So that is tricky, but we found out that the schools we work with are more than willing to work with us and partner with us even more and figure out the logistics on the ground on that end. So it's just, it's a lot of work to figure out the back end of the logistics of all of it, but you just gotta, start talking to people, reaching out to entrepreneurs who are doing that, because they have win and gone through it, and they're there to help you.
Yeah, that would be my advice, would be to ask others who have been through it for their advice. When we first initially launched the business, we set a goal of going on 50 drinks. It's kind of like the 10,000 coffee model.
Yeah.
Chris was one of our 50 drinks in the beginning to talk about shipping, fulfillment. His expertise lent very well to what we needed advice for at the time. So I would say whatever challenge is in front of you can always be accomplished if you're willing to ask others for help or for advice. Even like Chris said when he was doing his intro, if you have any questions, and his team are always willing to give 5-10 minutes of their time. People are always willing to help others if you ask for it, so don't be afraid.
They should be. Good entrepreneurs should be willing to help.
Right.
For sure.
I'll second both that. It's a lot. I wouldn't say we've overcome it. We're definitely still learning, and just a steep learning curve with distribution, especially in the beverage industry, which is only like Coke, Pepsi, or Red Bull, and they all want a piece of it. So it's a very fast-moving pace, but we're learning quick. And I definitely would say it's easy work. You're getting your hands dirty and just learning a whole new. I knew nothing of beverage distribution. Now I know. Oh, so I think.
And you learn from mistakes
Yeah.
too. Like it's okay to make a mistake because you'll learn from it and then improve it and never do it again, right? So
Sure, there's a lot of mistakes.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's such like the entrepreneur, like social enterprise, startup, nonprofit network is so like, it is a real community. Like you can lean on people and ask for help and ask for advice. We were having a beer and we were talking about fulfillment, and like we were kind of in that process with our merchandise in terms of figuring out shipping and packaging and boxes and everything like that. And Chris was like, we get huge discounts, why don't we we're thinking of doing that. We just came from the warehouse today, so all of your real stuff is going to be shipped out of the textbook warehouse. I mean, that's like a huge step for us. That takes that off our plate. We can focus more on the work. It makes sense for everyone. Super exciting. And that's such like that was just talking to people and finding the right expert who can help you and maybe even just completely do it for you.
Okay, so we have time for one more question.
For people who want to go into entrepreneurship and specifically social entrepreneurship, at this age, and they know that that's what they want to do in the future, what would you say the first steps are?
Stay open to monkey wrenches. It's great to know. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. So I'm just saying, just be open to expect the unexpected. Right.
Hang out at events like this, come by Propel, think things through, ask entrepreneurs for advice. There's more government grants out there that a lot of people don't know about. So if you have an idea that may work, you can get $3,000 to $5,000 to try it out for a few months. It's just getting yourself in the community and getting aware of some of the stuff that's out there.
When you say at this age, there's so many grants. We're lucky that I'm not under 30, but Shannon is, so we're so many grants that are for social entrepreneurs.
I would definitely set your, just as that is all such good advice, and reach out to people for sure. If you see someone doing something cool, like ask them for coffee. I would set a threshold for what you're willing to do personally. I know that sounds kind of silly, but going into certain startups or certain nonprofits or certain small businesses, or even going right off the ground if you're have a co-founder or something. I would start thinking about what am I willing to give up? What am I willing in the next couple of years? Do I have some threshold where am I willing to put in 14-hour days and every day and work weekends and miss birthdays, and it doesn't have to be like that. But certain situations, and that should, I think, also if you're interviewing at places, that can also kind of, if you thought about those things, you can ask those questions of a founder or something, because I think it's always good to know yourself. And even we've encountered that with people that we've hired, where as a founder, I feel like I've been, and a couple of years, really desensitized to insane weeks and insane hours and stuff like that. And whereas people who come on board, if they ask different questions, and also if I've been less, but I'm really busy and stuff, but I would have loved to have heard maybe a bit more from people. And I'm not willing to give up my weekend, and that's totally fine. And there's a fit for everybody, and there's a way that everyone can work together. But I would definitely keep that stuff in mind too. What am I willing to give up? I'm not willing to, give up X. That's totally okay. And I think that's also, that's kind of something that, evolves over time. But I would definitely go into it, thinking about those things, because you don't want to find yourself in a place that you're uncomfortable. You want to go in somewhere and really make a difference, but also be happy every day. I think I should.
I like that a lot. I was literally going to give the opposite advice, which is funny that you say that. So in being an entrepreneur, I think you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be situations that are thrown at you that you've never been in before, and you just have to own it and make a decision and own that decision. So I think it's, as much as important it is to know yourself and know your threshold, it's also important to know that it's not going to be easy and that you're going to be pushed a lot. So you have to try and learn to be comfortable with that. I also think it's really important, especially in the beginning, to understand, where your thresholds are, where your limits are, and set those boundaries for yourself, especially if you're going into business with other partners, and then communicate those limits with the other partners so everyone's on the same page of where the expectations lie, or where the, things may go wrong, because we all understand each other's perspectives and respect them. So I think that's really important. But my advice for being a social entrepreneur, the step one is to just do it. Just jump right in, and test it out. See what you like about it, what you don't. Make adjustments along the way. That's what we did, and it's been an amazing journey. So my advice would be just do it.
I definitely echo what Sonia said. Just make a Facebook page, tell your friends about it so that they hold yourself accountable. You can't quit very easily. And just go ahead with it, experiment with it, see where it goes. If it doesn't work out, then it's totally okay because you didn't invest that much into it and you're young, and ideas and failures can definitely help you. So yeah, I'd say just go ahead and do it.
One last point on that too. I remember myself being an entrepreneur back in the day, always thinking through things. I always thought my idea was worth $1 million and I wasn't going to share that with people. That is a stupid mindset. Ideas are worth nothing. So if you have an idea of social entrepreneurship, talk to as many people as you can. Tell them their idea. They're not going to steal it from you, but they're just going to, you're going to get that advice and get that fuel, and you'll find a lot of people start backing you, and that'll ultimately push you.
Oh, and I want to say one more thing that reminded me of. If you do pursue this and you do find yourself, because like Sonia said, getting outside your comfort zone is like entrepreneurship 101, 100%. I would say this for anyone in the room too. If you do find yourself really pushing yourself to like crazy limits, it's good to have people to talk to. Mental health and everything like that. We've had some conversations this year that have been like very therapeutic, and you go through those roller coasters. So it's good to lean on people. You might be in a situation where entrepreneur.
Once I asked an entrepreneur, what is this feeling I have in my gut that hurts so much, that fear bubble? You feel that fear? If he said to me, if that goes away, you're not doing it right. So the one thing I know about entrepreneurship is you're scared all the time. And they're not smarter than you, they're the same as you. And entrepreneurship is something that everyone can try. It's actually easier than I thought from a logistical perspective, like books and all that kind of stuff scared me at first. But that fear bubble is real, and it's okay. So if you have that, just keep walking anyway. Okay. So we're gonna flip it. I'd like to know, and they would probably like to know, is there anyone in the audience that has some type of topic that's brewing and maybe they want to turn into a business? So we can all sort of pitch in and have a conversation about if you have something. Yes. So here's what I heard people say. Many of them, it started with a problem, right? So endangered species is a problem. LGBT and talking awareness is a problem. I don't understand how to make a budget. That was a problem. In East Africa, they have no books in their universities is a problem. So they started with a problem, and then it was through their passions, and then they joined other people with the same passion. They collaborated, they had a roller coaster ride, and they always talked to people along the way. So thinking about those things that they talked about, is there anyone that wants to kind of throw out an idea that they've been brewing that has a problem, or that they will identify a problem and use a business model to solve it? So I see one hand. You guys aren't putting up your hand, so we'll go over there.
I don't know if it's so much like a business model to solve it, but I was just kind of wondering, how would you, if you have an idea and you kind of, how do you want to kind of expand it, but you don't have the financial resources to kind of expand it further, how do you kind of go about something like that? Perfect. How you solve that.
Yeah, because I would bet none of us up here had the money to start when we had the ideas. Do anyone want to answer that question?
One thing I would recommend is just talking to people. Everyone said up here, there's so much out there. There's so many grants, there's so many different things. So just the more you talk to people, the more people be like, oh my God, you gotta sit down with, the Laidlaw Foundation. That's right up their alley or whatever. And then also like just talking to people is really great for like, you might be so focused and you've got your plan and it's like, I gotta get from A to B. But the more you talk to people, people might be like, have you thought about going like in a zigzag, or have you thought about, adding this piece? And that's really helpful too, because you might be like, oh, there's no way I can get the money to do this. Where you bring on a couple of people, just friends, and bounce it off parents and etc. And people are like, oh, you know what? I mean, you should just charge for this, or like this is actually value, this is worth something, or this would be a great partner for you. But yeah, so I think talking to people is a great way to start.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of grants out there. Summer Company is one that pops to my mind. If you have a business plan, you great idea, it's like $2 or $3 grand you can get, I think, pretty easily. And there's a lot of ways to do it lean. Some people say, oh, I need, $5,000 in Google AdWords to start this up. Like, go to Chapters, open up a business magazine and steal the code, or buy the magazine. Buy the magazine, and there's a code in there for a few $100, and you can test it out. Like, there's always different ways to pick up courses.
Okay, so let's go back to the idea. Does anyone have an idea that is budding for them, or a problem that they want to solve, but they don't have any idea where to start?
Great things.
Let's do it. Tell us about it.
Hi, so my name is Megan, and this is Nicole, and we're both from Enactus Western. And so what Enactus Western does is we start student-run social enterprises, then pitch them at local and national and international competition. So if anybody's interested in social entrepreneurship, doesn't necessarily have an idea, contact us. So this year what we've done is we've launched Roll Up. And so my dad has worked in the long-term care industry for like decades. So that's the industry that sells like walkers, wheelchairs, power chairs, that type of thing. And what I realized after living with him is that lots of these devices go into disuse every month. So in London nursing homes, 350 wheelchairs go into disuse every month. But then we also realized that in London, lots of people can't afford a high quality mobility device, and so they're not having the accessibility that they deserve. And so we thought that was like a strange opportunity. And so what we've done is we're starting to, we just launched this industry, this business, and what we're doing is we're trying to connect these unused devices with people that really need them. And so we've done one round of device collection in these nursing homes. It's such a problem for them, it's like unused space, and they're actually willing to give them tests for free. So the amount of like, the way we can like monetize that is kind of insane when you think about it. And so we're trying to figure out the best way right now, the most sustainable way to upcycle the devices and connect them with people that need them. So that's what we're working on.
Okay, so just in the spirit of talking to each other, there's lots of brains in this room that can help you. So let's have anyone who has anything that they want to do to build on this idea, let's help them out. Any thoughts?
That's a little weird.
Pardon? So they have free-ish items like wheelchairs and walkers and things like that that they can get a hold of, and they have people who need them. That's the problem.
So how do you connect people to these devices?
Like resale channels. So
Yeah.
right now we're looking at directly partnering with physiotherapists, so they have to refer their clients to a chair. So we could be listed as an alternative vendor. We're also looking at trying to like sell online, through an online inventory. It's just we're having trouble reaching these markets and actually telling them that we have accessible, affordable chairs. Because most people, especially in Ontario, assume that you have to go through the government, which is not true. We'd actually be undercutting their prices significantly for that client portion.
And there's a big stigma around buying a used device, especially so it's overcoming that and saying that it's actually perfectly safe. Most of these devices are under a year old and in excellent condition. So it's like, how do we preach that when we have like no?
So why are they selling them? So where are they giving them to you? There's nothing wrong.
Because they can't do anything with them. Most long-term care facilities in Ontario are nonprofit, so they actually like can't sell the chairs or anything like that. And they also don't have the infrastructure to resell them. So they literally have hundreds of chairs sitting in storage rooms in the basement, which take up valuable space within the home. So they either just let them sit there or they actually throw them into a landfill.
But they're not broken.
No, they're perfect. Like if we brought them in, you wouldn't even know which one was a brand new chair or which was a used chair. Like most of them are used for less than 11 months.
And so this sounds a little, just to give you context, there is an organization called Reboot that does the same model with computers. So things like Western, they get brand new computers every other year, regardless of how good the computer is. So the computers go for free to the nonprofit then that sells them back out again. So that sounds similar. So a question, and I think there's a hand right there as well. So do you want to go first, sir?
Sure. So you mentioned your dad was in this long-term care industry, and to me this sounds like it could be a standalone non-profit. It sounds like it could be a really profitable arm who already sells these devices. If you're not that, you're actually competing with device manufacturers.
Yeah.
You just sit across the table from that one day. But
Jim
that,
said, I'm gonna put him at 3 times.
and that's the kind of thing that if I am in business, I said, you're gonna put me in business, I would buy you a coffee. And that, because it's a great way to keep helping the customer base. So any sort of channel that we're normally selling through, like see if somebody wants a part of that. At the same time, that's really hard to monetize. Now you're just an idea, and somebody who's never used to implement it exists. But no, I think providing value is kind of just be about. Sorry, I have a boring thought.
I think we can maybe provide a little bit of background too. So the assistive devices program will subsidize 75% of the cost of a new wheelchair in Ontario. So a type 2 at a basic chair retails for $2,500, and so they'll cover 75% of that. And vendors are legally obligated, if they're an ADP vendor, to say that you can buy this chair. Like, well, you only have to pay $625 for this chair. And so most people of like modest income will just opt for the new chair, especially if they file insurance. So that's like a big deal. Why like a traditional vendor isn't so much about like selling used devices. Right? It's like a robot.
I was just wondering why people are either leaving the home or no longer need them.
There's changing demographics in long-term care homes. So 10 years ago, people stayed for 10 years, whereas today we're staying for 11 months. And so when the person leaves the home, they're just not.
Yeah, it just sits in a room. Actually, when collected 20 of them.
Yeah.
That's the problem, right?
So that's the problem we're dealing with.
Like we only collected 20.
So 1, 2, 3.
I don't know how, I don't know how far into the process you are contacting physiotherapists, but there's a few, if you want to speak after, professors at Western that run projects at Parkwood Hospital, which is like huge rehabilitation center. And then when they discharge, like they have a lot of independently living patients who are in like had strokes or have accidents, and they just are kind of like an in and out patient facility. They don't really keep patients there, so to speak. So that would maybe be like a good avenue to speak to someone who could get you in touch with patients. I don't know, like that's part of it.
This is just a thought. This isn't a solution or anything like that. But like when my grandparents passed away, especially with my grandpa, part of the thing that my family was thinking about a lot was like really wanting his things to go to someone in need, like his nice suits, his jackets, etc. You know, so I don't know if the families could play any role in being an advocate for wanting these to get in the hands of people who need them, etc. I feel like we did give away his because he used his thing for he had ALS who went downhill super quick, so he used his machine like very briefly. So we got in the hands of someone, but I don't know if families could play a role in really advocating and do a lot of the legwork of almost like a little purpose or.
It's like more of a marketing strategy for your dad and you, sitting on the same side of the table. So the chairs that you collect, you guys can potentially have like a social private part of your dad's company, I guess, where you give these workshops around the world for free to help hospitals around the world that are growing, war areas, stuff like that. It'd just be like good marketing. So.
I know someone who ships internationally.
Why not leverage the existing networks in London? Like for example, there are like the London housing registry. They help people with disabilities find affordable and accessible housing. So like talking and sitting down with their executive director and going to their community meetups and telling them that you have these and they can help you distribute it that way. Maybe if you want to give them a cut towards like their organization, they would be even more incentivized to help you. But I think that they're looking for these resources already.
Would you want your price point to be under that 25% of what's not covered? Right?
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for this group? Yeah.
So what does it take for you to become one of those listed people who government pays 75% for doing? Like, what's the process for that?
You have to be selling new items.
Yeah, you have to be selling new items from like specific manufacturers. I'm not exactly sure what the like exact processes and the paperwork and things like that, but they sell it at 55% margin, so I imagine there's some type of like straight process in order to get that benefit.
I was gonna say, like, why not, like, we have all the social media at our hands in this day and age. I think that would be, like, the most, like, powerful tool in your arsenal to basically use to promote what you're trying to do with your business. So using social media such as Facebook, where you can have little promotions and stuff like that to kind of get the word out, sharing the business with other people and having your friends that you have on Facebook do the same thing. And like, it just takes something as simple as that, and I'm really trying to.
I have this one already. Given that the product life literally extends past the average duration of use, can we just implement some sort of rental service? If we make the pitch that the average use is 11 months, you can just fix it out between uses, and clean, and then rent it out to families for much older, instead of like demanding the reproduction of new devices.
Actually, that's brilliant. I'm thinking things like, mom hurt her ankle and she only needs it for the weekend or something like that, right?
The thought is just that if you're going to do rental, don't rent on the basis, if you don't be renting to older people, the basis is your use is very short.
That's dark. We've averaged this out.
That would be versus
There actually is a rental club in Ontario called the Annual Winter Recycling Program, which is run by Red Cross, but they're sunsetting it because they can't connect with enough people because we putting them out of business.
Okay, any other final thoughts? One more, he's on a roll. It's good, yeah.
This is interesting. Talk about the power of youth. If you want like a really, really attractive cause, you have one. So if you go talk to your MP and they want a really good press day, the government decides you get subsidies, and that's provincial. So it's not that big of a deal. So maybe become the face of fighting that. Organizations might pay attention to you, and whether or not you win, that's a lot of PR. And you're done with it. I almost put you in favor.
All right. Cool. Well, I know I want to go for coffee with you. I have lots of ideas that are popping up for me. It's amazing. Really, it's really popping up. I worked for 14 years in the healthcare industry. That's why I've got lots of that. Okay. And, two more.
Sorry, I just have a question. So there's an expiration date on wheelchairs, right? How long they can be of use to somebody?
5 years.
5 years. So if it's only been used for 11 months, then it's basically like you have that amount of time to kind of use whatever. So why not, if you know where like a lot of these kind of wheelchairs can be put to use, why not just promote yourself to like hospitals and other types of institutions like that?
Totally. Again, the biggest thing that we've been running into is like the actual upcycling process. People are really like wary of that. They're like, this is a medical device, like it's dirty, it's gross, it's broken, even though like most of them are like amazing condition. So like that's something we've been like trying to like effectively like overcome. So we haven't like solved that issue yet, but something we're working on.
One of the most important things about social entrepreneurs, I imagine you guys know this, is you are advocates also in the cause area that you're in. So oftentimes you need to be that voice. So I think that's a great thing for you guys too. There was one other hand. You have one more? Okay, tell us. We have about 2 minutes.
Like I'm building a startup, and the thing is I'm building a device that's an automated, autonomic ID stand. Like it follows the patient, follows like waiting calls. Because the people who are ID stands are usually in like a fragile or rigid state, so it can be really difficult for them to move the ID stand, and the ID stand has to stay like on them. So like yeah, so like in the station we're building an ID stand right now. I want to like see like what other people see.
Okay.
Tailored towards like rehabilitation centers, so that be able to track how well the person is able to, how fast you get to walk and how long you take to walk.
Beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say anyone who has any cool ideas about that, you can chat and network during pizza time because it's 6:30, and I'm going to invite Kareem back up to the front. But thank you for the opportunity and for the chatting. Good job.
Hi everyone! So thank you guys so much for coming and for all of your questions and engagement and your business ideas. Those are fantastic, and I think there's so many people excited to talk to all three of you later after when pizza shows up. Part of the team just ducked out to go get pizza, so it's on its way over. It's just on the way, so we're good with that. I just wanted to say huge thank you to all of our panelists. We really appreciate your insights today. I hope you can tell from the engagement in the room that it was very well received, and we have little gifts for everyone. So I'll just hand these out to you, and then afterwards, everybody just stick around because our panelists will still be here. So if you had any burning questions that you didn't get to ask them yet, you can talk to them as you're eating pizza. Thank you guys.